Well, tomorrow, the German parliament will pause to remember the millions of people who perished during the Third Reich. It's part of many events that take place every year on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Well, this year, for the first time, lawmakers here in Berlin will highlight the men and women and children who were murdered by the Nazis for not being physically or mentally fit or perfect enough. It was known as euthanasia, the first mass murder program conducted by the Nazis, a rehearsal for what would become the Holocaust.
The Nazis' vision of the future was a world that had no room for the mentally or physically disabled. Anyone who suffered from depression, schizophrenia, or physical handicaps was systematically murdered at the Pirna sanatorium. The Nazis gave the project the code name T4. Today, this place is a memorial to honor the thousands of victims of euthanasia who were killed here. On this day, 80 members of an international youth group are visiting the site. To give you an idea how big the building was, behind us there was a garage for buses. All the structures in this area were part of the sanatorium complex. The victims were evaluated by a commission of doctors, but that sounds more medically legitimate than it really was. There were at most 2 doctors working here, and they were there to see which people had gold teeth. Those doctors pulled out the victims' gold teeth and traded them for cash. Just one of the many atrocities the young visitors are told about. The first stop on their tour is the gas chamber. The victims were usually killed on the day they arrived in Pirna. This was the entrance to the gas chamber. The staff were still on hand. The nurses led them in. There were shower heads installed to make the place look harmless, but the staff made no effort to disguise the rest. It's the systematic operation of the killing that the visitors find hardest to grasp. The Nazis killed nearly 14,000 people here within a year. We know it happened, but it's strange to know it and still be unable to comprehend it. Coming to terms with the vastness of the SS death machine is a tall order. This is where the victims' gold teeth were removed and their brains dissected. After being killed in the gas chamber, the victims' bodies were cremated. The sanatorium staff falsified the causes of death in the records they kept.
I've always learned about the Holocaust and the crimes against Jews during the World War II, but I haven't heard as much about euthanasia, and it's been really fascinating getting to learn about this topic that's remained so much in the shadows beforehand.
It's a good thing so much of this has been left standing instead of coating everything that's been destroyed with plaster. This way you get a stronger sense of what happened. The euthanasia victims' ashes were scattered on this slope. This is the last stop on the youth group's tour, a chance to reflect on the many thousands who were killed for no other reason than their condition.
Well, I'm joined now in the studio by Julia Frick. She was one of the founding members of the T4 Memorial Society. She also has a very personal connection to this tragic chapter in German history. Julia, thank you very much for coming on the day. Your grandfather was a victim of this euthanasia program, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And we wanted to let our viewers know, too, what we're seeing behind us. This is a stone, an engraved stone that's actually put in front of the house where he was born, right?
Yeah, it's an art project of a man called Gunther Demnig. He places those stones, they're called Stolpersteine, like stumbling stones,
yes,
maybe.
That's right.
They are put in the street in front of the houses where people lived who are victims of the victims of the Holocaust, victims of euthanasia, victims of the National Socialists.
And talk to me a little bit about how you found out that your grandfather was murdered by the euthanasia program, and how did your family talk about it?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, because they didn't talk about it. So before I was born, there was no, yeah, it wasn't, yeah, they didn't talk about it because they maybe felt ashamed, because they, yeah, they put him out of the family, actually. But it was underneath all the time a feeling also, my father felt that something was wrong because he hadn't a father. So he asked questions, but he didn't get answers. And maybe it took the time, it took the decades, and needed a person that is a little more, has more distance to all of this to find it out.
And did your parents ever tell you exactly the circumstances surrounding your grandfather? Because we hear that if you were mentally ill, or even if you were depressed, if you had a nervous breakdown, nothing would happen to you unless maybe there was a member of the Nazi Party in the family. Was that the case with your grandfather?
Yeah, the case with him is also a bit special, because his the man of his sister, he was in the SS.
Yeah, so his sister's husband.
Yeah. And he wanted him, yeah, to put him out of the way. Can say it like this. My grandfather was, I think, a very sentimental man, and he could have called it weak-minded, maybe, but not. The Nazis would have called it weak-minded.
Weak-minded, yeah.
Or yeah, he wasn't mentally ill. I don't think this, but he was far away from his wife at that time. It was already war, and he had to stop his conducting at the opera. So he was in a very bad situation, actually. And
as a lot of people were during the war, right?
And this is actually the most tragic thing, because a lot of people who were killed in those hospitals, in those sanatoriums, I don't think that they were really ill. They were called ill, they were made ill. But I think most of them, and also my grandfather, were just, yeah, very, very sentimental.
Yeah, and or maybe he was just sad. Talk to me a little bit about what we saw in the report here. We saw a lot of young people, like yourself. And is that a big part of your work, to educate young people about what happened, especially with the T4 Memorial Program?
Yes, it's a very big part of what we do in the society that we founded last year. And for me, it is special because I think I am emotional, very near, very close to all this. But from my age, since I'm born 1990, I'm actually quite far away from it. And this special point, this special position, it works. I noticed that I reach the people because younger people
have no physical connection to what happened, right?
Yeah.
Enough time has passed. Is it easy for your parents to talk to you now about your grandfather and about what happened?
Yeah. It was a big change, actually, because for my father it was very special, very emotional, also to go this way with me together. My brother and sister and my parents and my aunt, the other child of my grandfather, they are very close to this process.
And you're going to be at the German Parliament, the Bundestag, tomorrow for the Holocaust remembrance. You say that euthanasia murders, that they pale sometimes when they're compared to the victims of the Holocaust, and that they need more attention. Is that what's going to happen tomorrow?
I hope. I really hope that this is another chance for us to make this topic public. Because history often is just numbers or dates or names, but history is humans. It's we have to see this.
Well, Julia Frick, we certainly appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us tonight. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.